And Dave Sussman back with you from CPAC at Whiskey Politics, and I'm delighted to be sitting in person with John Tamny, and fans of Whiskey Politics may remember John Tamny. We had him on speaking about his book, The End of Work. Fantastic book, outstanding.
Thank you.
So before we get back into some of those issues on the book, real quickly, your thoughts on what's happening in the economy right now, just generally speaking.
Well, my view is that a bad day in the U.S. economy, a bad year, a bad decade is boom time anywhere else. Let's never forget that our Great Depression years, by any other global measure, were amazing in terms of the progress. And so the U.S., the natural state for people is to grow. As long as they're free, as long as there are very few governmental limits on their ability to prosper, Americans in particular prosper. So I think it's doing just fine, and what staggers me to think about is if I see you 5 years from now, how much more advanced we'll be in 5 years relative to today. That's all you need to know. It just keeps getting better. Isn't it interesting? Warren Buffett keeps buying stocks no matter what, and he does, because the only constant in the U.S. is progress.
So are you referring to the progress, technology, the improvements, and just systemizing things more, or is there a general optimism that you see?
Just the progress in technology and this idea that, you know, look, people like Warren Buffett have gotten rich buying from people who thought America's best days were behind them. And let's be clear, we're both from Southern California. You could fill many Rose Bowls with the people who predicted the end of the United States as an economic power. It goes back before we were in the United States. But the only constant is free people, and people who've come from around the world to taste freedom here. They have a tendency to grow. There's a reason that we are so entrepreneurial here. We descend from the crazies who crossed oceans and borders to get here. And so you can't, that kind of progress is not going to stop here. Okay.
Let's talk about some threats. Obviously, a lot of discussion right now regarding tariffs and trade. And I know your perspective on trade. Why don't you tell our audience real quickly on this and the tariffs?
Trade is the greatest foreign policy concept mankind ever created, because you're not shooting each other, you're exchanging. But it's this beautiful process whereby we as individuals have the whole world competing to meet our needs. Americans have the whole world fighting to give them a bargain. But what makes it truly great, and what we talked about on Whiskey Politics long ago, was when we are taking in the world's plenty, when we are importing from around the world, we are free to do the work that most uniquely elevates our skills, what's most commensurate with our skills. So there's one of the reasons we're such a rich nation is that the whole world has always been able to send us the goods that we need. That's allowed us to specialize. When you're specialized and you're productive, it doesn't become work anymore. And so free trade is an essential driver of the American dream of doing what you love on the way to prosperity.
So the discussion right now that we're having is, are tariffs bad, especially when they are reverse tariffs? So I'll give you a quick example. We had on the show a few weeks ago a really famous producer from Southern California, Brian Roberts, and he produced Everyone Loves Raymond and like a slew of sitcoms, 500 shows between Canadian and American television. And he's concerned about, you know, the relocation of show business, leaving Los Angeles, moving up to Vancouver or moving over to Georgia. And he suggests, now this guy is a liberal, by the way, he suggests that if Donald Trump wants to win back Hollywood and the acting community, that he should put some kind of reverse tariff on those companies that are leaving, and any companies that are exporting from Canada into the United States entertainment, put a 30% charge on that. Many of them will come back into Hollywood, and that will be a boom for California, which is losing a lot of business. What do you say to something like that?
Scary. How awful. What consistently builds Hollywood is the fact that it's become a globalized concept. What a compliment to Hollywood that the whole world is basically falling all over itself to get its productions all over the world. And let's be clear, Ben Affleck, someone who's got a good track record making movies, he said, what this frequently means when we can go to Vancouver, when we can go to Georgia, is it gives us an extra week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks to improve our product. And so how dangerous. The U.S. Constitution was written to make sure that trade is regular within the 50 states. How dangerous if we move against that.
But if it's, I see your point, and I'm kind of in between two stalls on this discussion right here, because I see it from the standpoint of saying, okay, but if you're going to bring jobs back to Southern California, instead of seeing runaway production, which has been going on now for well over a decade, you're going to improve the economy locally, which is the heart of the entertainment industry. It's one of the two biggest sectors of the California economy.
Well,
one of the three, actually.
Fair enough, but let's look at why they started making movies in Southern California to begin with 100 plus years ago. It's because of the location. It's an ideal place to create films because of the weather and all these things. It's attractive to actors. So rather than put tariffs on, rather than limit the global growth of Hollywood, why not just lower the tax rates in California to make it more hospitable for one of your top industries?
Right.
And so anytime you're trying to bring back jobs, that's a dangerous thing. Hollywood continues to thrive. Look at how it's evolved. You don't just have Paramount today. You don't just have HBO. You have Netflix. You have Amazon spending billions of dollars, billions more than the studios, to create content. Hollywood is not struggling right now. It's not as though there aren't jobs there. What's not there is they're doing different things in Hollywood while the production takes place elsewhere. You know what that sounds like? That sounds like Apple. Apple right now designs the products in Cupertino, has them made all over the world. Is Apple poor? Okay, well, neither are Netflix, neither are Amazon, neither Paramount, Warner Brothers.
Gotcha.
They're just working differently.
One of the things that you discussed in your book, and we briefly talked about it in the last time you came on the show, and it was a much more extended, we got a lot more in depth than we can do here at CPAC, was this new burgeoning series of careers and opportunities that are now coming because of technology. You blew my mind in the book. I had no idea that people actually coach people on video games. Right? I'm just not a gamer, so but the idea of that is, what do you see, if you were to add a new chapter since you wrote the book, because things are changing so quickly, what else would you say about that, and what else is coming down the pike?
Well, it's amazing. If I knew exactly I'd be a billionaire, what the jobs of the future are going to look like. But as we discussed on the show, it's not just that there are professional video game players, but as you just alluded to, there are professional video game coaches.
Right.
Since we've talked, I saw another story that there are 20,000 Fortnite coaches alone across the United States. And so
that's one of the big video games.
Yeah, one of the big video games. It's the jobs of the future, and I think this is going to be brilliant for Southern California.
Right.
We are headed for an entertainment economy. The jobs of the future are going to be more and more about people doing what they loved as a child as a lifelong career, and it's going to be entertainment related. And so that's where I see it. I think the people who love guitar, who love playing piano, who love singing, dancing, you name it, who love video games will more and more be the stars in the future, because we're going to automate the production of the food and all the life's necessities. And what that means is more and more people will just get to showcase their unique skills for growing audiences.
Last question for you. I know that you are editor-in-chief at Real Clear Markets?
Yeah.
Okay, Real Clear Markets, by the way, I go to every single day, before I even knew you or knew about you. It's just one of those sites that is a conglomeration of everything. The perspective is left, it's right, it's libertarian, it's traditional, listen, I'm a traditional economist, Adam Smith, Milton Friedman, right?
Why aren't you writing for us?
Excuse me?
Why aren't you writing for us?
Let's talk.
Okay.
Yeah, but so you obviously have your thumb on the pulse of what is happening in the economy. What do you see heading into what is going to be, that people think 2016 was crazy, right? 2020 is just around the corner from us. What do you see heading into an election year as far as the global economy goes, and national?
Well, I think one of the things is that probably helps President Trump in this scenario is, at least for now, the Democrats haven't led with very serious candidates. They're leading with socialist candidates, and let me be clear, I don't think the typical Democratic voter is socialist. Why I don't think so is some of the most accomplished people on earth, including people you know in Southern California, vote Democrat. They are not voting for people to expropriate their genius. They're not voting for people so that their greatness can be taken from them. And so I'm wondering if there's a potential for a big shift in Democratic voters to the other party, simply because what they've rolled out now has nothing to do with this base of really accomplished people. Southern California is full of incredibly talented people. I don't think they want all their money taken away. I don't think they want their talent taken from them. So it's going to be very interesting. There's a potential for the right to add people in this scenario, I think.
Well, let's see that if that happens, and that sounds optimistic. John Tamny, find him at Real Clear Markets, and go get the book, The End of Work. It really is very, very interesting. It will open your mind to the future, and congratulations on that. Thank you for joining us.
Me. Appreciate it.
Thanks, John.
Yes.
All right. We'll be right back with Whiskey Politics here at CPAC.